Today's episode is brought to you by the folks over at SeatGeek, the best and easiest to use ticket platform out there. They take the confusion out of buying tickets using a 0 to 10 scoring system and a green is good, red is bad color rating system so you and your loved ones get the best deal possible. So whether it's going to see our beloved Redlegs at Great American Ballpark, the Bengals over at Paycor, FC Cincinnati, one of the area college teams, or pretty much anything in between, use promo code Riverfront at checkout and receive $20 off your first order. Click the link in the show notes to download the app and get started. That's Riverfront, one word, for $20 off.
What is up, everybody? Hope everyone is having a fantastic week so far. This is the Bengals show, and that was our awesome, fantastic, killer new opening. Again, see, I told you, our production value is going up and up. We have actual music from an actual band. The song is Another Blank Page by Rough Sleeper, Canadian punk rock, our good buddy Joey Gaditza. Again, we're here for you guys. Like we're trying to make everything as top notch as possible. Yeah, that's, whatever. I just like the song, and he let us use it. So
a loss doesn't slow us down. We're going to continue to raise the bar. Perfection is on its way.
Exactly. We're raising our game. We're upping our standards. So up yours. I am your host, Joe Farsing. Alongside me, per usual, the wonderful, the handsome, the talented Greg Neiman. Greg, what's happening, man?
Living the dream. Would have liked to got out of Cincinnati with the W, but on to the next one, and we'll get it figured out.
Yeah, there are a lot of thoughts, a lot of things to say about Sunday's game. It wasn't boring. It was an interesting game. I'm equal ways mad and a little. I don't want to say. I don't know the right way. Like, there's a little bit of consolation in there, and we'll get into that here in just a little bit. Again, if you guys are watching this on YouTube and you're not subscribing, do us a favor and hit like and subscribe and all that fun crap. If you guys are watching on Spotify, get a chance, go to our page, youtube.com/RiverfrontCincy. We'd appreciate it. All of the algorithms and all that fun crap would appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you guys are on Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere else you can find. I don't even know every source where we have it, but if I didn't name one of these sources, send me an email. Let me know that what I'm missing, because I'm probably shorting somebody and someone's going to get pissed at me. I don't care. On to the game review. Again, Bengals lost Sunday, 30-27 at the Houston Texans. Opening thoughts. It was an awful effort. Offensive line, defensive line just got absolutely smoked thoroughly by an inferior team. It's not to take anything away from the Texans. They're a solid team. Like, they're a good team. They're not as good as the Bengals. What are your 35,000 foot view thoughts on this one, Greg?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think the Texans they're a good football team. I mean, the Texans are the real deal. Now, are they an AFC championship team, Super Bowl type team? I don't think so, not yet. But I think there's legitimacy to the fact that C.J. Stroud right now is, to me, easily a top 10 quarterback. And I think you could make an argument on the fringe top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now. And I know that's crazy for a rookie, but he came in with 14 touchdowns, 1 interception. Bengals were able to get a couple turnovers off of him. But I thought Houston came out and they answered the bell every single time, and they didn't blink on the road against a really good Bengals team. And the Bengals blinked a couple times when they had opportunities to win the game, and I thought that was the difference, to be honest.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Bengals didn't have a lot of counter punches. Sheldon Rankins absolutely just killed the offensive line. I mean, he had 3 sacks in and of himself. He had a couple run stops. Yeah. He's a good player. But that shouldn't happen. Alex Kappa just had an awful game. Again, he's a low-end starter, low ceiling, but he's still better than that, and just didn't show it. The run game was bad again. Bengals struggle for whatever reason when T. Higgins isn't in the lineup. Their offense struggles, which isn't so much the case when Jamar is out, which is a good feather in the cap to have for T's folks to have, for any bit of a extension or anything like that. I still don't think he's going to get extended. They'll pick up the franchise tag and then deal with that after that. But again, a long drought in production. We talked about it, and we'll review our keys here in just a second. But after their first drive, when they went down and scored a touchdown, the next 5 drives, they had a total of 33 total yards. Technically, it was 32 yards, but one was just a kneel down at the end of the half. Punts, each and every one of them, and it was just sloppy, and just passes were all short, runs were going nowhere. They ditched the run game again pretty early. Mixon didn't have a lot of carries. I think he had a total of, real quickly, 11 carries for 46 yards. Numbers looked decent, 4.5, 4 some odd yards a carry, but he really wasn't effective. It was a long of 15 yards, so 10 carries for 30, and that's pretty much how it was: 2 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, 3 yards. That's not effective. Nobody outside of Boyd and Chase really did much. Yeah, beautiful pass and touch, or throw and catch to Trenton Irwin on that first touchdown pass. Outside of that, Irwin had one more catch. Hudson had 5 catches on the first drive, 1 catch the rest of the game. Yoshi had 1 target, then went out with an injury. It's just not a lot of help from the rest of the depth chart. Jamar, he looked healthy when he had the ball. He looked healthy running routes. He looked healthy catching. He didn't play as many snaps. He still was second in snaps among the wide receivers after Tyler Boyd, but it's almost like they were trying to conserve him until they needed him.
Yeah, I think he was healthy enough to be on the field, and I think the Bengals were basically using. I think the goal was to use Jamar Chase as literally nothing more than a distraction.
The decoy, yeah.
Yeah, you see on the first drive of the game, the Irwin touchdown, Jamar runs the 5-yard out from the slot that creates the hole in between the cover 2 zone. That's always there, but when the corner's paying way more attention to Jamar Chase on a 5-yard out, that whole shot gets a little bit bigger. And that was an absolute dot by Joe Burrow.
Oh, but beautiful.
I thought Jamar Chase was just really good enough to play. I don't think he had that explosion. And I'm not trying to knock Jamar Chase. I think he was just a little dinged up. Even the 64-yard touchdown, I don't think, I don't think he was pulling away as much as he normally would. He's got that gear where when he hits top gear, nobody's catching him.
Yeah.
I don't think he had that. And I thought he really was probably playing at about 70% and still put up the numbers he did, which was amazing in itself. But I really think that they wanted to just use him as a decoy and make sure that he was fresh for Thursday. And then all of a sudden he had to make some plays because nobody else could.
Yeah, he ended up with 3rd on the team in targets. Tanner Hudson ended up with 7 targets. Jamar Chase only got 6. And yeah, part of that is, there was a lot of coverage shaded his way, but they've shown they'll feed him. Look at the Arizona game. He was, again, the only receiver. T was out, and they just kept feeding him and feeding him. He got 15 catches that game. On his touchdown catch, he was kind of just gliding. Again, it must be nice to be able to just kind of glide your way the final 40 yards, and you're not pulling away, but nobody's really catching up to you. He's just so talented. He is so good. Whatever that wide receiver number is going to be for an extension in this offseason, he's going to deserve every penny of it. Joe's going to want him to get every single penny, and it's those two are special together. Do you take any consolation in the fact that they played so poorly? They really did. Both offense and defensive line just got absolutely dominated. Gave up so many huge pass plays over the middle. Noah Brown, for God's sakes, I'm just wide ass open, and all these 20, 25-yard pass catches. Nobody around him, just finding these soft spots in the zone. Weren't able to run the ball. Devin Singletary ran the ball over them, and they were a dropped touchdown pass from winning that game. Is that just a matter of their talent level is what buoyed them, or I don't know how to reconcile that, because even if they'd have won that game, I don't know if the feeling would really be that much different. You'd be like, man, they played like ass and they pulled away. So what are we, what's the takeaway?
I don't think you can take positivity away from this loss because we've kind of done the same thing in a couple of their wins. Do you take some consolation in the fact that, we turned the ball over on the 3, we did this, we did that. There was other things that could have happened. This could have been a 21-point victory. The more you're around football teams and the more you watch, when a team consistently does that, eventually you figure out that is what your team is. That's just what you are. And there's no, we'll get better next week. So I'm starting to get a little weary of the fact that it's week after week after week after week that we just leave opportunities out there. Now granted, it cost us a W, absolutely. If you're sitting, a half game away from the Ravens coming into this Thursday night matchup, of course this looks different. But it's been multiple weeks where we just don't put it all together ever. And, it's not so easy to just flip the light switch and then, okay, now we're going to put it all together because it's the wild card round. We're going to put it all together, so we're going to flip the switch. That's not how life works.
Yeah.
And if you think it is, you're going to be sitting at home. So they better figure it out. They better figure it out quick because at this point, the Bengals have 0 time to waste. Otherwise, this is going to be the best Bengals non-playoff team we've ever had.
Yeah, I mean they're approaching shit or get off the pot territory. I don't know if they're able to play a complete game at this point because they seem to have figured something out with the tight end room, how to get productivity from it. Again, nobody there is really a starter. Tanner Hudson, everyone was clamoring for him. People were going overboard, acting like he's Tony Gonzalez. No, he's a reserve on a good tight end room. He's only starting because we have absolute abject shit in front of him in terms of pass catching. Again, I'll take Drew Sample on my team any day of the week as a blocker, as a guy who's going to give you every ounce that he has, but he's not a guy who went running passes or catching passes. I think they're still limited. They're not a very athletic team on offense. Jamar Chase is fantastic. Outside of that, they don't have a lot of speed. They don't have a lot of, there's nobody who's going to take the distance outside of Uno. I think that cost them. I mean, that's been the issue. We've been talking about that from the running back room. Mixon isn't that guy. Travion Williams isn't that guy. Chris Evans, I think he's got that ability, but they have zero faith in the guy. That they don't trust him at all. Chase Brown, I think he might be that guy, but he got, unfortunately got hurt his hamstring before he got a chance right when they were talking about actually utilizing the guy, which you look at. We'll get into this in a little bit when we go to Baltimore, talking more about Baltimore. They're the number 1 rush team in the NFL. Again, having Lamar Jackson helps, but you look at how their carries are spread out through guys up and down the roster. Now they always have, they always get so many guys injured in their running back room, especially, but there's so many guys that have 20, 30, 40 carries. We have Joe Mixon with, I think, 137, if I'm not mistaken. And then Travion Williams with 10. I get none of them, like Chris Evans. Why are they not using anybody else? Travion Williams, again, he's not going to give you anything different than Joe Mixon. He's just not like he's a useful depth piece. He's a good, he's good pass blocker, but he gives you less than Samaje Perine, and Samaje Perine was not an explosive running back.
It's truly amazing because you think you would just fall into being the number 2 back. You would fall into more than 10 carries. I mean, even if it's just because when the starting running back has 100 and whatever carries compared to the next closest guy having 10, you would think you could go out there on a 3rd and 9 every once in a while and give it to Williams, and it's going to go for a chunk because they literally know you're not going to run the ball. You would think you would stumble into more than 10. And I think it's kind of unexplainable and unbelievable.
It's comical. I mean, they have Mixon with 137, Burrow with 30. I mean, how many of those are, 27 of those are probably scrambles. Travion with 10, Chris Evans with 2, Tyler Boyd with 1, Chase Brown with 2, Jamar Chase with 3. Jamar Chase has the 3rd amount of carries of your non-quarterbacks.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's one thing if this is a Corey Dillon in 2001 and he's, busting loose for 30, 40, 50 yards, once every few weeks. Or, just a bellwether guy, who's productive and putting up 100 yards a game. But when it's when you're just not getting efficiency, you're not getting explosion, why not try somebody else? Again,
this isn't Derrick Henry of 2 years ago. I mean,
yeah. It's just, and again, I'm not a coach. I'm not in the room. I don't see what's going on in practice. I don't see, who's studying, who's, it's just flabbergasting and flummox me and all those fun sounding words that I just don't get it. Quickly here, we're just going to review our 3 keys coming into last week's game on offense. First, blank the Texans pass rush. Greg, did they blank the Texans pass rush?
That would be a big hell no.
No, Texans had 17 sacks coming into the game. Again, I mean, that's 2 sacks a game. They put 4 on them, 3 by Sheldon Rankins.
And it was worse than the numbers show. I mean, the 4 and the 3 by Rankins, it felt like they had 9 sacks because the pressure was constantly, especially when it's from the interior. Joe Burrow was rushed a lot. And especially when it's from the interior, it just makes it very hard to step into throws and do some things. They were getting pressure at an extreme rate. So that was disappointing to see.
Yeah, Burrow can handle pressure from the outside. If he can step up and, just little subtle movements, can manipulate the pocket, find that little gap or escape the pocket. But when he's got someone in his lap, he can't go anywhere. I mean, and you can't ask your ends to keep blocking. I mean, these edges are so athletic. You can't ask them to hold these guys back for 5, 6, 7 seconds. It's not going to happen. Never mind when you're facing Myles Garrett or T.J. Watt, these guys that are absolute just maniacs.
That's when the Bengals get big plays. If they contain the interior, the ends run by. Joe's formidable enough he's shifty enough he steps up, steps out, gets up to the line of scrimmage. How many times has he gotten out of the pocket, stepped up to the line of scrimmage like he was about to take off, and then bam, it's a dump off 25-yard throw on the easiest completion of the day? Well, if you're getting interior pressure, none of that happens.
Well, and that's what happened on the Chase touchdown pass. He was able to escape the pocket and run towards the line of scrimmage, kind of parallel to it, just to kind of suck in the linebacker, pull somebody up. And he found that little gap, hit Chase. I mean, that throw was beautiful pass on the move, on the money, and hit him in stride. Didn't have to break stride and walked in from 64 yards out. 19 dropbacks where he was pressured out of his, 47 total. Like, that's 40%. It's too much.
You can't win.
No. It's, again, Texans were better than their sack total, but there's a reason they were, held off. They were able to get pressure, but they weren't able to finish. Well, they were able to finish because they were able to get pressure up the middle to keep the quarterback from escaping. And we talk about that for the Bengals. When the Bengals pass rush is at their best, it's when they're getting B.J. Hill, DJ Reader pushing the pocket so that Hendrickson can clean up.
100%.
So, second key was, can the wide receiver depth feast without T and Jamar? Jamar played. He and Tyler Boyd went over 100 yards each. But outside of those two, did the depth flourish without T?
That would be a hell no. And I mean, even with the Tyler Boyd, everybody's going to talk about the touchdown drop at the end of the game, but he had multiple drops. So I don't feel like, I think even if you ask Tyler Boyd would say, I did not play that well, even though the numbers may bear a different story. I didn't think he played to his, normal level of what you want Tyler Boyd to be. So another big hell no across the board on that one.
Yeah, he had the nice again. He had another 64-yard reception right before the touchdown drop. But I don't, not to take anything away, because Tyler Boyd is going to go down as probably one of the top 10 best Bengals receivers in history. Absolutely. This is his last 8 regular season games as a Bengal. I mean, I don't see any chance of him coming back. But even on the long catch and run, literally 95% of wide receivers make that catch and run, and a more athletic receiver punches it in themselves. Yeah. So it's, and again, this isn't taking anything away from him, but again, Yoshi went out. He only had 1 target. Irwin only had 2 catches. The 1 catch for 32 yards, another catch for 22. That was it. And then a handful of passes to Irv Smith, a couple to Sample, and the 7 to Tanner Hudson, and 3 targets, 2 catches to Joe Mixon for -1 yards. Yeah. Again, Mixon has done a lot for this team, and he's fine on this roster, but they need somebody who can make someone pay and be explosive, miss a tackle. And the blocking was bad, but you get somebody who's got that little wiggle, and they can make that guy miss and pick up 20, 30 yards. We're not doing that. So. Third key, and I mean, this is an easy one to answer. Play 4 quarters. The offense play 4 quarters.
That would be maybe the biggest hell no of all. I think they took basically half the game off, maybe 3/4 of it.
Yeah, it was. They played better in the second half, I think. I mean, they had the 2 interceptions, but they were moving the ball in the second half. Again, I mean, Bengals, that's been their whole thing. Is the first 2 drives scored touchdowns. They scored 1 touchdown, then 1 punt. Halftime, come out and punted again. After that field goal, they got a touchdown, and then the interceptions where they were moving the ball both times. One was a bad throw that a more athletic receiver should have caught. Drew Sample he just timed his jump wrong. Again, it was a high throw. I can't get too upset at Sample. I can't get too mad at Joe Burrow. It was kind of a 2 not great parts equal to bad thing because they got the interception off the tip. The last one, I mean, they drive all the way down and he throws the interception in the end zone. And that was just a miss. That was Joe forcing it because, it's a scramble drill with, at that point, it was under 4 minutes left in the game and just forced it and totally missed the, I can't remember if it was the linebacker or safety. It was someone who's covering Mixon dropped off. I made a great read because that's usually when you see linebackers start to come towards the line of scrimmage and leave that huge gap. He dropped off and right into the passing lane and picked it right off. But then they followed that up with another touchdown and field goal that should have been a touchdown. So they kind of did backwards of where they've been the last handful of games. But again, yeah, it was 2 full quarters where they did absolutely nothing. And they just can't have that. They can't. I don't expect them to score on 8, 9. I mean, this isn't college football. Like, you're not hanging 50 points on a team, but it's you can't go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out.
The problem is whatever their game plan is, whatever plays they're scripting to start are perfect. I mean, their script to start a game is incredible. And
absolutely.
Literally, as soon as that script is over, nothing. I mean, you go straight to 0. Not first down here, first down there. You go to 5 drives and 33 total yards. I mean, the script ends, whatever they pre-scripted, and then it's over. You're done. And then it's like, well, we got to wait for Joe to kind of figure out the defense, and then we'll kind of pick them apart later because we know we're not going to get anything from the running game. Even the running game, the scripted running game works. Yeah. And then as soon as you get out of the scripted plays, the running game goes kaput. So they're going to have to figure something out. I think either you need to script maybe more plays because clearly when you script, it's working, or they've got to add to their offense, their base offense that they're running for chunks of the game has to become more because you can just clearly see a difference and it's becoming the difference in the game and now potentially the difference in this season. So they've got to get it fixed.
It started back in San Francisco when they started going with the more under center. Burrow was able to run the offense under center, and it opened up a lot. Play action game. I mean, Burrow's numbers going into last week's game, and I didn't see the updated with what it looked what he was last week. When he was under center play action, he was 20 of 24, and complete. That's a 84% completion percentage, over 200 yards. So I mean, he's absolutely cooking play action under center, but they didn't go under center a lot, or they outside of the scripted first drive, like he was barely under center, and I don't understand it.
And that's why I think the problem is, I think when you get away from your script as a coordinator, what's the first thing as soon as you get away from your script you're going to do? You're going to go back to your comfort zone. Yeah. Well, Zach Taylor's comfortable with Joe Burrow in the shotgun and slinging the ball around without a whole lot of, cleverness to the offense. It becomes very vanilla, drop back, 5-yard hitches, ins, outs, high, low. It's nothing crazy. The scheme becomes very simple. So I just think that the script is one thing. And then, once they get out of the script, I think the play calling, I don't want to say it's bad. I just think it's not good enough.
It's predictable.
Yeah.
And I understand you've got a quarterback who is as mentally acute and tuned in as any quarterback since Peyton Manning. I mean, he's pretty much there was an article about Lou Anarumo running plays past Burrow to see what he would do with, if he faced the defense that was lined up in this alignment, what he would do, and Anarumo adjusting the play based off of that. I mean, that's, you've got that kind of intelligent guy, but you got coaches for a reason. I'm not saying take the ball out of Burrow's hands, but I'm saying, like, force him to play a little more on the on script. And I don't know, like, it's you don't want to. You don't want to take the ball out of his hands, but you kind of want to take the ball out of his hands because what he wants to do is, while he's fantastic and he's the most accurate passer ever, and he likes having everyone just lined up on the chessboard, but they're playing a lot of good defenses, and this is like, I just don't know if you can do that in 2023 because of the way the defenses are athletic enough and able to disguise everything. Not that he's getting fooled, but he's getting forced to take everything underneath. Like, they're barely trying to go deep much. Like, there's a bunch several times. He threw a hospital ball to Tanner Hudson when he had Yoshi wide open downfield on Sunday. Just didn't see him, didn't look at him, whatever, and just dumped it down on a pass to the flat to Hudson and almost got him sent to the emergency room. Goodness gracious, he got obliterated on a pass that was just outside of him. And I don't know. I don't want to say take the ball out of Burrow's hands because this isn't a referendum on him, but or change up the plays that he has to go to.
Well, I just think that when Burrow he knows he's going to have 50 dropbacks a week.
Yeah.
Each play is only so valuable. Where if the Bengals, and I know the running game hasn't done a thing, but you went to those play action numbers, 20 of 24, just absolutely shredding.
Yeah.
If you just continue to run the football, and Joe Burrow only gets 35 dropbacks a game, now what is Joe Burrow going to do? Is Joe Burrow going to be the guy that complains and bitches because he's only getting 35 dropbacks? Or is Joe Burrow the guy that's going to say, I'm only getting 35 dropbacks, I've got to make the absolute most of all 35? I think he's that guy. So sometimes less is more. And I think if you give him less reps, he's going to make the most of those because that's the kind of guy he is. And then the other thing is you're forcing the defense. They still have to stop the run, where right now, I think if you legitimately line up and play the Bengals, and I firmly believe this, if you line up and just say, we do not care about the run game at all, I'm not sure that Mixon would get 50 yards. I'm not sure that the Bengals would give him the ball enough for him to make a difference. I mean, I think if the Bengals if they ran the ball and they went 7-7-7, I think the very next play might be a pass. I just don't know that they're going to continue with the run game. They haven't shown the willingness to. They haven't shown the ability to. So if I'm a football team, I'm lining up and I'm going to do exactly what the Texans did. I'm going to come after the quarterback and forget the run game. Who cares? Nothing's going to happen. You're not going to penalize me for rushing the passer. And until they can do that, you're going to continue to see 19 pressures on 43 dropbacks. Just unacceptable.
And Mixon hasn't made them pay even when they're when they're in light boxes. So even when they do give him the ball in what you think would be advantageous situations, and again, how much of that is substandard run blocking? Because we know he's not good at making the first guy miss. If he can hit the line of scrimmage with a full head of steam, he's going to pick up 7, 8, 9 yards.
Yeah, and I'm not blasting Mixon, because I think
Yeah.
Mixon is a little bit of a volume back, to where, he wants to kind of pound on people for a
Yeah.
little bit, and we don't allow him to do that, and I just think we really should. I think we should a little bit. And the other thing is, it shortens the game. Burrow's not dropping back 50 times. I think the Bengals need to be a team that gets the lead and then continues to run the ball even when it's not working. They have to continue to run the ball, because Joe Burrow can get you out of bad spots. We know this. He can. But we've got to run the ball to keep the defense honest, and it's just going to wear on them a little bit. When you're a linebacker and Joe Mixon's running downhill and smacks you in the mouth, and then the next play you got to go chase down, Tyler Boyd or Jamar Chase in the slot. It's two totally different worlds. It's two totally different things, and it makes you play a half step slower. I just think the Bengals have got to get something. They've got to change something about the offense, just to tweak, kind of what they're doing, and use everybody at their best.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of years, there have been games to where, and I'm talking the game against Las Vegas in the regular season a couple of years ago, Panthers game, I think a bit of the Falcons game, to where that has been the game plan. Like, they're going to take game and they're just going to run the ball, and they're going to force it and just keep feeding them. And a lot of that's predicated upon the defense you're facing. But I think they just need to take a game. Ravens are a fantastic defense. They're number one rated coverage per PFF as a team, as a unit. Like, they're the number one graded. And maybe this is a game 4, but they're also great. Their linebackers are fast. But I think you just need to take a game that, and this is going to be a game the Bengals have limited amount of possessions, because that's what the Ravens do, and squeeze it even tighter and just run the ball. Because again, that's going to make the play action even that more effective. And again, you're missing some weapons. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not a run heavy guy. Like, I hated watching Big Ten football through the entire 90s and half the 2000s, because it was Wisconsin and heavy I formations, and you're just going to pound the ball 3 yards, 4 yards up, first down, and just boring, awful to watch football. Iowa still thinks that that's how you play football.
I was going to say, how many Iowa games are you watching then? Because good night.
Iowa's proof that nepotism is a terrible reason to hire coordinators, but
yes,
there are times that it's fine to just rely on a heavy run game and give your quarterback a bit of a breather. And hell, if you can give Burrow a game where he's throwing the ball 25 times, even if they're behind, he's going to be a hell of a lot more fresh in the fourth quarter if Mixon has, in the running game, again, not just giving to Mixon, give Mixon 15, 20 carries. Even if Travion Williams is only getting 3-4 yards a pop, give him 4 or 5 carries.
Yeah.
Chris Evans, give him the ball, even if it's just run some gadget plays. When was the last time the Bengals ran, again, not an end around or anything like that, but just some kind of crazy misdirection? Like, they don't have a bag of tricks. They run a flea flicker every now and again, and some kind of jet motion, and that's it. Again, I know that's what Burrow wants them to be, and they made a Super Bowl, made the AFC Championship, but this offense is stagnant, and sometimes you need to be the adult in the room and play, against your, better selves, and just do something different. It's gets them on their heels, even if they snuff it out, even if they blow it up. It's something they're thinking about. It's something that's on film, something that you can, try similar motion, try similar alignment, in a few weeks down the road, and get the other team totally out of whack, have them burn a timeout, or pull just call a bad play, and you've got a wide open touchdown for it's vanilla. It can be explosive, but it's vanilla, and they don't have any explosive playmakers. We got way off on a tangent here. Back to this past week's defense. The keys for the Bengals defense was for them to bring the heat. We already talked about how they weren't able to blank the Texans pass rush. Were the Bengals able to bring the heat on defense?
Not exactly. I wouldn't give them, I would give them a passing grade, but not a very high one. I thought they did some things. They did force CJ Stroud into 3 turnovers, essentially, with the 2 fumbles and the interception. So they got a little pressure, but not enough to where you can look at the stat and say, we're going to win that game. If you would have came with the stat of 1 sack and 3 hits on the quarterback, I'd probably say not looking good. So it was okay, but okay doesn't win NFL football games.
Yeah, and 2 of the turnovers were unforced. One was a fumbled exchange between Stroud and the center, and the interception. For the life of me, I have no idea why the hell they were throwing.
That was insane.
Yeah, never mind that the throw was. I mean, it's just a bad read. And he pretty much threw it right in Cam Taylor-Britt's breadbasket, but he's gotten really, really good at making quarterbacks to throw the ball right to him. He's so good at disguising coverage. So yeah, I mean, they only forced the 1 fumble, and that was a questionable, and I think it was the right call. It was on a batted. They hit his arm and batted the ball out at the line of scrimmage, and half the time that gets called a forward pass, and they don't overrule it. I was actually kind of surprised because that they let the call stand.
I was too.
That was hilarious.
I thought for sure. I thought for sure they were going to overturn it.
Well, what's hilarious is the announcers completely missed the fact that they never blew the whistle, that they let them play on for a fumble, that the referee actually came on the PA and said rolling on the field is a fumble recovered by the Bengals, and they're still talking about it being an incomplete pass until like 30 seconds later they come on and say, I think they rolled out a fumble.
Yeah, they were behind, and unfortunately, I've been there in life many times where I'm a little behind. Takes me a minute to connect the dots. They were definitely in that situation.
I'm like yelling at my TV. I'm like they clearly threw the beanbag to mark a fumble. The call, like the play went on. There was no whistle, and then the referee came on the PA, talked over top of you guys. You guys wouldn't shut the hell up, and said the rolling on the field is a fumble recovered by the defense.
I'm not gonna lie, I called them both idiots as I was watching the game. I'm like, these guys are morons. It's clearly a fumble.
Like, what are you missing? Like no one, like they never, whether you thought it was a fumble or an incomplete pass or not, like clearly the play went on. Like the play was not dead. Like these guys make a ton of money, and I'm not gonna say it's easy. I mean, I'm looking at a script and I'm not live. I could pause this podcast and you guys wouldn't notice that I did something stupid. But so I'm not gonna pretend that it's easy. But my goodness gracious, just stop talking and look at the play actually happen on the field.
It's pretty easy. I mean, it's pretty easy. I've done some live things. It's pretty easy. I mean, good night.
The problem is nobody, like everyone, especially the analysts now, they never stop talking. And Chris Collinsworth is
number one.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing this for a long time. I mean, he retired 35 years ago. I don't know how long. I mean, he went to the booth pretty quickly after he retired. And
it feels like 35 years he's been up there.
It feels like 45 years.
Yeah, at least.
But it's like, oh my God, just shut the hell up. Tony Romo won't shut up. I mean, he's too busy drooling over, and he does it for every quarterback. It's not just Mahomes. I mean, he drools all over Burrow. He loves quarterback play, but shut the hell up and let the play-by-play guy actually call the play-by-play. Like, you guys are missing stuff because you guys are too busy talking. Like, just shut up. Sometimes just let the play breathe. That's why I think baseball broadcasters are so much better, and especially on the radio, because they let the play breathe. You hear the action, like you hear the crack of the bat, and like, okay, explain to me what needs to be explained, not just talking so that there's not 2 seconds or a quarter of a second of dead air.
Yeah, I think if we could just put in all those football booths and just put a sign up that says silence is golden, because there really does just need to be just relax. It's okay. You know, there is 40 seconds between plays, so you're going to have plenty of time to talk about what you want to talk about. But Chris Collinsworth, now here's a guy. I can't do it. I mean, I can't do it. I can't do it.
It would be great if, and then there's so many different, especially when Monday Night Football, they've got the Manning cast and they've got all the alternate broadcasts, just to have, and they've done this for baseball before, and on NBA League Pass, they have it for games that are nationally broadcast. They have the alternative feeds from different camera angles elsewhere, like on the NBA, the League Pass channel, where you don't hit any broadcasting. You just hear like the arena and the crowd noise, and you hear the PA, and like that's awesome. Like that is so cool. Like it's like you're there in person. You can actually hear what's I think it's for someone that where'd you go? You're back. You disappeared. I just think it's kind of a cool way to watch a game. It's because again, most of these guys just talk too much, and it's annoying. Anyway, second key was keep passes in front of the Texans have done a great job all year at the long ball, and all the receivers have crazy high yards per reception. How'd they do keeping the passes in front of them?
Not well. So we didn't give up any long touchdowns per se, but Noah Brown absolutely feasted all day. 7 for 172, and they're lucky it wasn't for more, because there was a couple times where he caught balls and there wasn't anybody within 15 yards of him. And the one time, it was later in the game in the fourth quarter, I believe, he caught kind of a crossing route, came across the defense, caught the ball, and then he decided to cut back inside. I think if he continues outside down the sideline, I think that play kind of turns very similar into the Tyler Boyd play at the end of the game. I think Noah Brown, 7 for 172, and I think if you put Jamar Chase in Noah Brown's spot, it might be 7 for 280. I thought he had more room to run than he even actually achieved. So no, another hell no on that one would be the answer. A lot of hell no's starting to pile up here, but that was definitely not successful on the Bengals' part.
Sensing the theme, and again, it's astounding this was a 3-point game.
Yeah,
but,
it really is.
Third key, and it is gang tackle. We knew going in that the Texans had 7 fumbles on this. Like, they lost 7 fumbles. And the 2 more fumbles, only one of them was actually caused by the defense. Again, one was just on a bad exchange. But how do you grade that?
This would be one of the ones that I think probably graded the highest. I thought they tried to gang tackle. Now, the problem was they were gang tackling and still getting driven down the field. I thought the best player on the entire field on Sunday was Devin Singletary. I thought he played better than absolutely everybody. NFL high, league leading in rushing for last week. Devin Singletary with 150 yards. And I think you can kind of see the Bills missing him a little bit in their run game. I think Devin Singletary looked explosive. If you would say, hey, the Bengals can have Devin Singletary right now, sign me up. I mean, I would take it. The problem I had is there was too many plays where Lou Anarumo, again, there's going to be people that are complaining about it. It wasn't necessarily Lou Anarumo's fault. He sent Nick Scott on a blitz off the edge, essentially a run blitz, playing with 8 in the box. Nick Scott comes completely free. And Devin Singletary grabs the ball and says, okay, and jukes him out to the outside where Nick Scott just came from. So you're the contain guy. You're in charge of making sure that ball doesn't get to the edge. You're completely unblocked, a free rusher. As a defensive coordinator, I cannot put you in a better spot.
Yeah.
If I go on the whiteboard, I say, this is exactly what I want. I want you coming off the edge. I want them to run the ball right at you, and we're going to have a 3-yard loss. And Devin Singletary juked Nick Scott out of his boots, and it was a 12 or 15-yard gain. As Lou Anarumo, if you're sitting over there on the sideline, you mark that down as that's an A-plus play call for me.
It's a win, yeah.
Not that it's about you, but you're like, okay, I called that one correctly. And they gained 15 yards. So that's on the players. I thought Nick Scott did not play well, and I think that we have to have Nick Scott's got to start playing better, in my opinion. Not that he's played horrible. I'm not trying to sit here and bash the guy.
Hey, hang on. I do have something we do. We have some breaking news here.
Da-da-da.
Nick Scott played poorly.
Yeah.
In other breaking news, the sun rose in the east. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, if Nick Scott doesn't start playing better, the Bengals, their defense has holes, and he's part of that right now, and they've got to get it fixed in a hurry, because again, this season now is starting to look very similar to some previous seasons where everything's on the line, and you better just start winning at an unbelievable clip. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting at home.
Yeah, and I think they're missing. I mean, obviously, you knew they'd miss Jesse Bates. He's having an all-pro season, but his loss is kind of mitigated by. I mean, Dax Hill's having a good season. I think he's probably playing about as well as they could have expected. So that 1-for-1 trade has been, while you've lost something, I think that's an acceptable downgrade from what they knew was going to happen. They knew Bates was going to be gone anyway. I think the drop off from Von Bell to Nick Scott especially, but just to that other safety position has been tremendous. For the life of me, I don't understand why Jordan Battle is not getting more snaps to the naked eye. And again, I'm not watching film with these guys. I can watch the all 22. I can see what I think, where I think Nick Scott is missing, like if he's missing a tackle or he's not getting deep enough, and I can see Battle playing that better. But I don't know these players. I mean, I can understand the X's and O's. I don't know the Jimmies and Joes, but I don't get why Jordan Battle isn't playing. Like, we're now in the middle of the season, so it's not like this is week 1, week 2 with a rookie third rounder. This is now someone who's played a fair share of snaps and has outplayed the veteran and did not get many snaps at all on Sunday. And it's just, I don't understand it.
I'm right there with you, because I think Nick Scott, although I'm not a Nick Scott hater by any means, I just think he's been below average. And I think that below average mark has been pretty glaring at times. And it's led to some big plays for the opponents, not just this week, but previous weeks as well. So they got to figure something out. Either Nick Scott's got to get better, or Jordan Battle might have to start seeing some reps, or you got to change your entire scheme. Something's got to happen, because he ain't cutting it right now.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Scott had 63 snaps on Sunday to 11 for Jordan Battle. Again, PFF is all taken with a grain of salt, like their grades, because it's, they're grading what they don't know what the actual individual responsibility is on these. They're just reacting, they grade as to how the actual play plays out. Jordan Battle's the third highest graded Bengal defender. Trey Hendrickson, DJ Reader, and then Jordan Battle. And Nick Scott is the second worst graded, with 5 times the amount of snaps. And again, like, Lou Anarumo isn't going to go pull up PFF's premium stats to look at that and be like, oh my God, what am I doing? I didn't he knows that one is outplaying the other. And it's frustrating, because this is the kind of bullshit that Marvin Lewis would do, burying a rookie because he wants to play, because the veteran has earned the spot or anything like that. And Lou gets the benefit of the doubt. If anything, over the past couple of years, Lou gets the benefit of the doubt, but you're seeing this stuff cost them. And I don't know. There needs to be better play, especially, I mean, tackling. They only were credited with 4 missed tackles on Sunday. But the problem is they weren't in position to miss tackles for a lot of the runs. And then they were being carried. It was almost, when we talk about gang tackling, it was almost 4 or 5 guys holding the running back up while one guy swiped, while the pile's getting driven an extra 3 or 4 yards. I mean, these were what should have been 3-yard carries getting 7 yards, and no one's missing a tackle, but 3 guys are holding on to him while someone's trying to, somebody get his legs so he stops moving.
Yeah.
Like, I
felt like it was like the defense was waiting for the next guy to make the play. All right, maybe somebody else is gonna. But, and I say this all the time, I can find anybody on the planet, I can put anybody on the field to not make plays.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to go make the play, and I just felt like they weren't really super aggressive at all times and being like, I'm gonna go make this play. It was almost like waiting for the next guy to do it.
Passive.
When that happens, then you're in trouble.
Yeah. With this being a crappy week, we're just going to blow through the awards here. I'm not in a good enough mood to play our funky music and everything. Joe Esposito, Player of the Game award winner. Brad Robbins. Again, we talked about this earlier. Rookie punters are ass the first half of the season, and he's now showing why they should have, why they brought him around. 5 punts, 51.8 average. I mean, these were like the first punt he had was like 56 yards, 5.1 hang time, and just an absolute rocket straight up into the air. It's fantastic job, and he's looking like he's an actual, like, not a placeholder, and next year they're going to have to get another punter for the 4th year in a row. So good job, Brad. You've made your way off our shit list, and now you're the Joe Esposito Player of the Week. You want to do the Mr. Randy Watson? Hey, I did it right this time with Watson.
So the Randy, what did you have last week?
Walker.
Yeah. Okay. So Randy Watson was just the entire defense. I thought left everything out. That just didn't play as well as we could have. The pressure wasn't there. The tackling wasn't there. I thought the physicality wasn't there. They did force a couple turnovers, and you do have to give Cam Taylor-Britt and the Bengals defense a little bit of credit at the end of the game, making a play to, try to get the Bengals back into it. But at the end of the day, they didn't do enough to win. So the entire defense grabs the award.
Yeah, I also wanted to give honorary mention to Tyler Boyd, Lou Anarumo, Dave Shula, Bruce Coslet. Well, we can keep going. Dick LeBeau was his stint as a coach. It just a lot of bad. Randy Walker was the former football coach at University of Miami.
Okay,
Miami University up the road in Oxford.
Yeah,
went to Northwestern.
I was hearing that name and I kept thinking, who is that? I'm like, I know that name. Who is this Randy Walker guy?
Man, and it's probably said Randy Walker on our notes for weeks and weeks and weeks. Yeah. And but again, we're working to get better our production values. We're not there yet.
Taking that next step, man.
We need more subscribers. We need more listeners. We need we need the we need that sweet ad money coming in, so someone else can do this and do a better job of the production value.
The amazing part is, I think it said Walker for like 10 weeks, and I think last week was the first time one of us actually said Walker. So we do have some talent here.
True. Well, that just means we do all this work making notes and nobody pays attention to the damn thing. All right, quick glance around the division. Division standings: Ravens with their loss against the Browns. Browns came back. They were down 14-0. They were down 31-17. They came back to beat the Ravens at the gun with the field goal. Both quarterbacks threw pick sixes. Deshaun Watson, very first play of the game, was a pick six. Lamar threw a pick six late in the game to bring the Browns back. They are at 7-3 again. They face the Bengals tomorrow night. This is Wednesdays. We're doing this. Deshaun Watson is out for the season. I don't like seeing injuries. Like, I hate the Browns. Like, they're right up there. The Steelers is my least favorite team. Like, seeing Nick Chubb go out absolutely sucked. Nick Chubb is a fantastic player. I would be absolutely crushed for them if, God forbid, something were to happen to Myles Garrett or Denzel Ward. Deshaun Watson, I'm hoping he has surgery for his broken shoulder and bleeds out on the table. Karma is a bitch. They have to pay him $63 million next year and in 2025 and in 2026 because of how they've redone his contracts and restructured them so that he would only lose. They've restructured it so he'd have $1 million contract next year, knowing he'd be suspended and would lose the fewest amount of dollars possible. He can fuck right the hell off, and not sad one bit that he's going to miss the rest of the season with a broken bone in his shoulder. PJ Walker, Dorian Thompson-Robinson combined his backups for 1 touchdown, 8 interceptions on the season, and DTR will get the start on Sunday. They're actually playing Pittsburgh. So I think the Browns, as great as their defense is, I think the Browns are going to start fading, which competitively, it kind of sucks because it's awesome to have all 4 teams battling and the chance to see all 4 teams in the playoffs. I think the Browns are going to start fading because their quarterback play has been terrible, even with Watson, and it's going to be even worse. And that defense is just going to run out of steam.
100%. I think the crazy part is if somehow the Bengals can win Thursday, Browns Steelers, one of them's going to lose.
Yeah.
If the Bengals somehow win Thursday, whew, man, I mean, you are right back into the super thick of it. And if you lose, geez, now you're in real trouble. But if you can get a win on Thursday, man, you are right where you want to be, and everything's right in front of you.
Yeah, you lose your 2.5 games behind the Ravens, for that matter, 3.5 games, because you have lost both games to them and lost any tiebreaker. So it's a big game. Steelers are in second place. They beat Green Bay 23-19, and what just an awful. I mean, I feel bad for Green Bay. They're used to winning. I think Jordan Love is a talented quarterback. They're just having some growing pains right now. That any game involving the Steelers just has to be such a terrible game to watch. I can't bring myself to watching them. I absolutely can't bring myself to watch them.
It's really hard. I mean, the Steelers are the worst 6-3 team. I would go out on a limb and say possibly in the history of the NFL. I mean, watching their games is horrendous. It's exactly like watching the Jets games, except the Steelers just win by 2 instead of losing by 3. I mean, that's all it is. The Steelers games are so hard to watch, and I really it's not even that I hate the Steelers. I don't want to see the Steelers make the playoffs because the percentage chance that the Steelers do something in the playoffs, 0. They have no shot at anything. They're not a good football team, and they're somehow 6-3 with about 5 of those wins have to be by a combined 14 points. I mean, it is impossible to watch.
Yeah, I mean, just for an entertainment factor, I'd rather see a team that's combustible like the Chargers. I mean, Chargers are a fun team to watch because you never know. They could put up 75, or they could put up 3 points, and Justin Herbert could throw 15 interceptions, and it's at least an entertaining product. I don't know anyone who actually. Again, I don't feel bad for Steelers fans, but nobody deserves to watch that. I mean, they've won by 4 points. They've won by 5 points. They won by a whole touchdown win over Baltimore, beat the Rams, and then won by 4. These are just one-score games. They've been outgained in all 9 games. Like, that's insane. They have not outgained their opponent in any game. Kenny Pickett has 22 career games, 22 starts, 13 touchdowns, 13 interceptions.
Jeez.
Like, that's what a quarterback looked like in 1972.
That's bad.
Yeah, Joe Namath and Terry Bradshaw are in the Hall of Fame for those numbers.
Right.
This isn't 2023 when quarterback play is easy is not the right word, but
different.
It's easy that some people who are lacking in a lot of I don't say talent, but someone like Brock Purdy, who's a Mr. Irrelevant last pick of the draft, can come in and be incredibly productive despite not having the strong lacking in qualities that a lot of top qualities quarterbacks have. So they play the Browns Sunday 1 p.m. I think first team to 12 wins.
Yeah,
I'm curious what the over under is on that. It's got to be. It can't be over 30.
You think it'll be in the Iowa territory? Because them Iowa over-unders are starting to get in the 20s, which is insane.
If it's at 30, like if it hits 30, I swear I'm not someone who puts big money or anything on, but that would be a game I'd put $100 on the under. It's going to be Jerome Ford and Jalen Warren and Kareem Hunt and Najee Harris, and that's it.
Oh, your biggest fear is TJ Watt sacking somebody and picking up the fumble for a touchdown. There's no question about it. I mean, he is definitely the biggest scoring weapon in that game.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I mean, both teams are going to get are able to get defensive scores, so they've got talented players. So, quick news and notes before we hit into the preview for tomorrow's game. Trey is apparently playing. I don't know what they shot him up with. His knee injury looked bad. I'm thinking when I saw that happen, I'm like, oh shit, we will see you in July. Like, we're not going to see you in OTAs. We're not going to see you the rest of the season. We're going to see you on the rehab field come training camp. Was just a hyperextension, no structural damage. So my first thought was, okay, cool. Then maybe there's a chance we'll see you next Sunday. You've got the long break from playing Thursday night to the next game. He got a kind of a mini bye. Maybe there's a chance. Nope. He was limited yesterday. He was a full participant today, and he's not even listed on the injury report, so he's playing.
He's
okay.
So, like, the part that scared me the most was that the hit looked, it didn't look good. But then Trey Hendrickson was showing some real pain. And if Trey Hendrickson's showing that pain, I probably would have said, go ahead and cut it off. Go ahead and cut my leg off, because this guy is the biggest badass on the planet. The fact that he is playing in this game only reasserts the fact in my mind that he is the baddest dude. He's just freaking wild, man.
Yeah.
That guy is like, I don't want to use the word like soldier, like, I don't want to pull the old Kellen Winslow Jr. thing, but that dude is a warrior, man. I mean, he just goes at it, and that's insane.
That's singularity, for your focus, just absolute single focus. Just no, I'm playing. 100%. Fuck it, I'm good to go. Yeah. And look good on the practice field, like absolute. I mean, for him to not have any designation to be a full participant, okay.
I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah, not so good news for Sam Hubbard, T. Higgins, and Yoshi. They are all three out again. Assumed as much for Hubbard and T, especially on the short week. Yoshi, I haven't heard about the severity, and as much as we all love him, he's still a day 3 pick that has 4 catches in his NFL career, and he's more projection than any sort of production. So people were kind of up, bummed that he only got it's fine. Like, we all love him, but what are you missing? Like, you're missing a guy that wasn't used much. Maybe they could use him more, should use him more, but who knows? Charlie Jones is listed as questionable. I think there's a chance he's active. He still has another 2 weeks that before they need to activate him. But with 2 wide receivers being out, they have activated Shedrick Jackson again. Always going to be Bo's nephew for me. He's been activated from the practice squad to the active roster. I think that's more of a special teams type thing.
Right.
I still think there's a decent chance Charlie Jones is active. That would be great to see him returning punts. And he's one of the few guys that has speed. He and Jackson, for that matter, are 2 receivers that actually have speed that can break big plays. So I would love to see one of them actually be active in the passing game. I don't know if any of that's going to break out, but we shall see. Real quickly here, we're going to head into quick preview for tomorrow's game. Play 8:15 Thursday Night Football, Baltimore Ravens. What do you see for the 3 keys on offense here, Greg?
The first key is the Bengals need to keep the ball moving, and I think we've seen this. When the Bengals offense gets stagnant, they don't have to necessarily score every drive, but they can't have a stretch of 5 drives for 33 yards. That just can't happen. And I think it's some of the stuff we've talked about today. We've got to run the ball and really force the run game a little bit at times. Not saying we got to run it 50 times, but if we can, get a little bit of balance and then let the passing game play off of that a little bit, I think that'll help. And then just stick with it. Trust your offense and stick with it. But they've got to churn out some first downs against this Ravens defense and play field position. You're getting that Brad Robbins. He's starting to punt well. It only takes 2 first downs, and now the field's completely flipped, and we're making Lamar go 90. So I think just keep the ball moving a little bit. The next question is, who's going to step up on offense? It's got to be somebody. I'm not sure if Jamar's going to be back to 100%. I think he'll be close, but you're going to need somebody to fill that void. I thought Tyler Boyd did an okay job. Obviously left, a little bit of meat on the bone there that we could have, finished it off. But they're going to need somebody else to step up. This is where I think Irwin, some guys, I think, not that they have to have 10 catches, but we've got to have a couple here and there. And the running back room in the passing game could help that out a little bit as well. And then protect Joe. This goes back to exactly what the Texans did. If they're pressuring Joe Burrow in 19 of 43 or 47 dropbacks, whatever it was, that's not good for the Bengals in general. If we can keep that number down, again, I think all these kind of play together. If the run game, if we force the run game a little bit, that'll protect Joe a little bit as well, because they're not going to be able to just fire off the ball, knowing that it's pass. In the week 2 game against the Ravens, the Bengals, it was only, I think, here we go, 1 sack and 9 total pressures. So I think if we can have similar numbers to that, I think the Bengals give themselves a very good chance to win. If we start getting up to 3, 4, 5, 6 sacks and 19 pressures, it's probably not going to be a good Thursday night game for us. So that's they've got to keep Joe clean and give him some time.
Yeah, exactly. It was the Ravens' best, or the Ravens' worst pass rush game of the season. The Bengals' best pass blocking on the season, and you're not going to completely blank these guys. They still don't have like the used to the Ravens having like an absolute standout T-Sizzle, or someone who. One guy who is going to get pass rush, but they have a solid team. They keep bringing in waves of guys that are going to rush the passer. So it's not just block. It's not just one offensive lineman having a great game. It's going to come from everywhere. One thing to note for who's going to step up on offense: Marlon Humphrey is doubtful tomorrow. So he's probably not going to play. Ravens linebackers, Ravens safeties are fantastic in coverage, but they're not going to be able to make up for a cornerback. Jamar Chase knows Marlon Humphrey very well. Jamar Chase has burnt Marlon Humphrey very well. So again, you're moving the next guy's down another step, and bringing the next guy up who's lesser quality. So your number 2 becomes your 1, your number 3 becomes your 2, and that's going to help. But again, if your Bengals are missing their 2 receiver and T, someone's going to have to step up. And I would love for it to be. I'd love for them to use their wide receiver depth. I mean, we talked about how deep their wide receivers room is, and yeah, you've got a couple guys banged up, but you still have other guys there that can make plays, and use guys who can actually create something. And this would be the week to be creative. And yeah, I agree. Defense, or the running game needs to be more of a focus. Again, yeah, same. You're not going to run the ball 40, 50 times, but just. And you need to keep them honest. I mean, if you can bring that extra defender down in the box, bring the safety. And Kyle Hamilton's already one of the best safeties in the league in his second year. He was amazing last year as a rookie, but with as big and as rangy as he is, if you bring him up, he's not. That's one fewer guy on the back end. That's one fewer guy. Whose tackle you got to break to bust the big one. So it'll be a challenge, especially on a short week to game plan, but they've been looking forward this week, and it's a division opponent. At least on a short week, it's a division opponent, so there's some familiarity. I mean, Mike McDonald's fantastic defensive coordinator. He's probably looking at a head coaching job next year too. So,
well, and this is the beautiful part about having a Joe Burrow. When you've been to a Super Bowl as a quarterback, you've seen the entire kitchen sink. They've thrown everything at you. So it's not like the Ravens are going to come out with something that Joe's never seen. And if they do, I'd be stunned, because I don't know what that would be. Joe's seen it all. So there is familiarity there. And, hopefully the Bengals can handle it well on the short week.
Yeah. They're going to bring out 11 linebackers. No defensive backs, no defensive no down linemen. Right. Just going to be 11 linebackers. And I'd love to see it. That'd be fun. Be a fun play call. If you got athletic linebackers, you can make it work for a short period of time. But
yeah, I mean, Humphrey's out; they might as well.
Right. Do it, Mike McDonald. Do it. All right. 3 keys on defense. First key, they've got to defend the intermediate area. This is where they were. I guess technically all those passes to Noah Brown were deep passes over 20 yards, but this is the area, kind of the soft area in the zone, where they struggled last week, and Lamar has been absolutely deadly in that range this year. 97.1 Pro Football Focus grade, 134 point something NFL rating. Yeah, I mean, he's got something to prove this year. He's been like that's Joe Burrow territory right there. That's where he's been feasting. That's where his secret weapon. I don't say secret weapon, but his special ability is, and Lamar's absolutely just taken that, and it just. you need to kind of compress that area so he's not able to find these gaps. He's got quicker, athletic guys that can, make those catches and turn up field. So we saw him hit a deep pass to Zay Flowers over the top. So it's a better wide receiver core than what we've seen over the past years, but that's the one area where they absolutely need to make sure that they're doing their best to keep from getting killed in there. Second one, and this is where missing Sam Hubbard is huge, is contain the edges on the run game. This is where Devin Singletary feasted. Again, this is Nick Scott on a run blitz, getting absolutely just taking the wrong guy. Even though he came in on a run blitz, he went after the quarterback instead of the running back. You can't let, especially Keaton Mitchell, you cannot let that guy get out. I wanted that guy in the draft. He went undrafted, and of course the Ravens get him just to add to their stable of weapons. Tiny guy, he's 5'9", $180, absolutely quick as lightning. They started utilizing him the last couple of games, had well over 100 yards last 2 games ago, had a 35-yard, he had 30-plus yard touchdown run last week. And if he gets out, if he gets the edge, you're going to be dealing with a lot of the same crap. Whether you miss a tackle or not, if you can't keep him, if you can't hem him in, he's not big enough to run through the tackles. You need to force him into the tackle box. You cannot let him get outside, or it's going to be a long day. They've got the number one run game. They know what they're doing. You need to disrupt that. Third point, get off the field. On third downs, they cannot let the Ravens shorten the game with prolonged drives. They've never been a team that's going to pick up chunks in the passing game that's just going to throw the ball down the field. They want to shorten the game. They want 7-8 possessions, keep you off the field. They've got the best kicker in the history of the NFL and Justin Tucker. They don't want a high scoring game. That's not who they are. I think the Bengals are in trouble if they let him. They let Stroud pick up 3rd and 13 and a couple of the 3rd and 10+ yard drives. They cannot let Lamar do that, and that's what he's fantastic at. Is he'll break the pocket and pick up 15 yards on just on his legs if the pass is in there. So cannot let them just bleed the clock and do 7, 8, 9 minute long drives, because as we've seen, the Bengals offense has not been consistent enough to score on a high enough percentage to where if these games are compact, you go 5 possessions with where you're putting on 5 straight possessions. That's the entire. That's second, third, and fourth quarter.
Right.
So, any thoughts on any of those keys?
Well, I think if the Bengals, as you marry the offense and defensive goals together, I think if the Bengals can go out and get a lead against Baltimore, I think that's a big one for this Bengals team. I think they need to go get the lead, and then if you have a lead against Baltimore, that clock to Baltimore looks like it's just burning very quickly. And then I think what the Bengals can do is they can continue to have. We talked about getting the first downs and just not necessarily having to get points, but getting first downs. If you get 3, 2, 3, 4 first downs, all of a sudden that's a 6-8 minute drive. And then, you punt it back to Baltimore and they have to go 95. All of a sudden that's a whole quarter, because if Baltimore's got to go 95, that's going to take them a good 10 minutes. So I think the Bengals can do some things where all of a sudden the pressure is on Baltimore. You want to shorten the game, that's fine. We'll get the lead. And then when we have the ball, we'll shorten the game too. And then, where does that end up? So I think it's a big key for the Bengals to come out, get a lead, and then, Ravens, we will play Ravens football. We'll shorten the game too. And that scoreboard's going to go flying.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw Michael Carter. The Jets waived him. I don't understand it. I think he's a fantastic running back. I would have loved for the Bengals. Now, I don't think they would have been able to get him in uniform and get him to play in Baltimore. I don't know if they got a waiver claim in. He went to Arizona, and Arizona puts a claim on you. You're not getting past them since they're top 2 or 3rd. Whatever. It's reverse order of your record, and they're not so good as the kids say. But I would have loved for him to have been able to fall to the Bengals. Again, that's a guy who's explosive, who makes people miss. His elusivity is something that's missing.
Where'd he go to college?
He was North Carolina, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well,
he and Javonte Williams, yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. They have, for the fact that they don't do anything, they put out a decent amount of talent. I mean, Mitch Trubisky's awful NFL quarterback, but he was a really productive NFL or college quarterback. Sam Howell, I mean, he's looking. I don't know if he's the answer in Washington, but he's entertaining.
They've put out some talent. They really
Drake May is looking. I mean, one or first or second. It depends on who you ask, but either he or Caleb Williams are going to be your number one pick.
Was Josh Downs North Carolina?
That I don't know. I know he was ACC. I'm going to have to look that up really quickly here.
For the Colts, and he's having a nice year too. I know there's others we're missing, but
Lawrence Taylor was North Carolina, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think you are correct.
Yeah. Josh Downs, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, for a program with not a ton of major history, they put out a decent amount of quality NFL players. So
they do.
Kudos, and a couple of decent basketball players too.
Yeah, just a couple.
Yeah, just a couple. Rasheed Wallace,
I love
or that Jordan guy.
I loved Rasheed Wallace and Jordan, obviously, but
Rasheed Wallace was batshit crazy.
That's why he's
and just fun to watch. Those Trailblazer teams, they were
like renegades, like outlaws. It was awesome.
They were like one of the awful contrived reality TV train wreck shows.
Yeah.
Because especially in that the NBA was hard to watch. I mean, these were games that were the points were in the 80s and 90s. It was all just everyone beating the shit out of each other. It's kind of a bringing back the Piston, the bad boy Pistons era where you're not getting to the basket. If you are, you're going to have a bloody nose. You might have a black eye. And you're going to be peeing blood because you're going to have 10 people elbowing you in the kidneys. So it wasn't a good quality, but those teams were fun to watch because there was as good of a chance that they were going to just absolutely just kick the shit out of the other team physically in a fight than them to actually win. I mean, you had Gary Trent, Shaq of the Mac. Brian Grant was the one like non-crazy, from Xavier, but he had hair that looked like Sideshow Bob. Those were Damon Stoudemire.
I would much rather watch 90s basketball than today.
See, I like today.
I know that's crazy, but that's how I am. I mean, I can't watch James Harden and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant talk about how they don't want to play for this team. I got to play for this team. And then every team they go to, they blow up the franchise. And I'm like, why do these people keep – I mean, James Harden, totally off subject, but –
LA Clippers are winless since they picked up James Harden. I will say last Thursday, I took my son to, he's a big Milwaukee Bucks fan, drove to Indianapolis to watch the Pacers play the Bucks.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And that was, I've never actually seen an NBA regular season game live. I've never watched millions of them on TV. My preseason game, Kenny Martin's rookie year, the Cavs played the Nets. It was a Cavaliers home game. It was at Fifth Third Arena here at UC. But obviously they were there, they played it there because of Kenny Martin. Like he even got took the microphone and spoke before the game, which is kind of funny because he was technically the visiting player. Right. But first NBA game, and Pacers. If you want a fun team to watch the Pacers. They all can shoot. They're a good team. Like there's no head case Kevin Durant. Like they're gonna hold the team hostage. No Ben Simmons who can do everything but actually put the ball in the basket unless he's throwing it down. Fun team to watch. Again, we're well off track, but that's what we do here. It's what we're good at. We stick. That's our bread and butter.
Time for what's coming.
Exactly. Time for predictions. And first, we're going to bring up our good friend Nate Dotson. Nate, what you got for us?
Listen, here's the deal. Last week sucked. It was no fun for anybody except for Texans fans. We're not going to have that 2 weeks in a row because the fact of the matter is Lamar Jackson kind of stinks. A few big games here and there, but when it's crunch time, you can't count on him. You know who you can count on? Joe Burrow. So it's going to be an ugly one. It's going to be a slugfest. It's going to be a dogfight. All the cliches. But Cincinnati's going to pull it out. 21-20.
All right, so Nate has him winning 21-20. I can't wholly agree with him that Lamar Jackson stinks. I think he's a better football player than a quarterback, but he's having a great year this year. It's actually, I mean, throwing the ball, it's the second best year after 2019. I think everyone's going to be in agreement it's going to be a close game, but bold words by a bold Virginian.
You ain't lying.
Yeah. Next up, our good friend Tim Daniel, host of Late Night Reds. Timmy, what you got?
Thursday Night Football, we find the Cincinnati Bengals in a must-win game. 4-point dogs, division game on the road against the Baltimore Ravens, a team who already beat them this year. Though a healthy Joe Burrow, I think the Bengals actually might win that game with how they came back. So, now we look at this. How does this play out? Can the Bengals overcome? Can they figure out a way to beat Baltimore in a must-win game? Last I checked, Joe Burrow doesn't lose must-win games. 4-point dogs, he's going to be really happy about that. I know there's no T. Higgins, but I think the Bengals will find a way to win this one because they know they have to or their season's in trouble. And I think it's going to be a little bit more low scoring. So I'm going to go Bengals win this one 23-17. Houday.
Houday, Tim. Again, another one-possession game, 23-17. I got to do it. 9 weeks in a row. Pick the Bengals. They're 5-4. I just can't, and I hope I'm reverse jinxing them there. I've yet to see them be able to make up. Again, Jamar Chase is the better receiver. I mean, he's one of the best receivers. I mean, if he's not one, he's number two, the second best receiver in the entire NFL. They don't play well when T's gone. Like, they play a lot better when Jamar's gone than when T's gone. I don't know if it's they just don't have someone to. I can't explain it. Offensive line has been up and down. They're coming off a bad game. I would feel a lot better. I would pick the Bengals if the Ravens weren't coming off a loss. I think them coming off a loss to a division opponent, knowing that they're only half game ahead. No matter what happens, even if they win, they're still only going to be a half game ahead because the Steelers and Browns are playing each other, and the winner is going to put them just one game behind in the loss or in the win column. I just think, and I hate doing it, and it's too late. I've already made the slide, and I can't undo it and redo it. But I got to pick the Ravens 24-22. It's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a game to where I just think the Bengals' inconsistency and long stretches on offense are going to kill them because they just don't have. They're not going to have enough. Not going to have enough possession to make up for a bad start.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with what you're saying. A lot of it makes sense. I think that this Thursday nights usually kind of lend themselves towards the defenses. I think that'll help the Bengals out a little bit. I expect the Bengals to come out super, super fast, and I think you'll see more scripted plays this week. I think in the Houston game, they really only scripted that first drive that went for a touchdown. I think you'll see the Bengals come out with more plays. I'm not saying that they took it easy on Houston, but I think they did hold some stuff back just strictly for Baltimore, knowing this game was pretty much make or break on their season. So I think they will come out fast, and I think they'll get the lead on the Ravens. I think this is going to be a wild one. I think it comes down to red zone possessions, who scores touchdowns, who scores field goals. I like the Bengals defense in that capacity. I think they hold the Ravens to 3 red zone field goals. So I've got a final score of Bengals 17, Ravens 16. I think the Ravens score a touchdown, 3 red zone field goals. I think the Bengals get a couple touchdowns and a field goal and take it by 1. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. The one point I did like by Tim, when it's must win, Joe Burrow is that guy. And when you look at Lamar Jackson in playoff games, he really isn't that, he doesn't win playoff games. Let's just put it simply. I think this is going to be a playoff atmosphere. This is going to be a playoff football game, and these are 2 playoff football teams. Whether it plays out that way or not, that's what this is. If it comes down to a big moment like that, I trust Joe Burrow more than I trust Lamar Jackson.
And that's an excellent point. I mean, not that, what happened in the past is what happened in the past. I mean, Lamar Jackson has had his struggles in the playoffs, and again, this is very much playoff atmosphere. And Burrow comes through in crunch time, but Bengals are 0 for their last 13 in road primetime games. This is a road primetime game in a short week to a division opponent. There's a lot of trends both with the Bengals and just in general going against them. I do think if there's any defensive score, if any team gets a defensive touchdown or a special teams touchdown, that team's going to win. So
can we convince the Ravens to put Tyler Huntley in for a quarterback sneak, or maybe?
I mean,
that
would be great. I mean, but who's going to run it? I mean, Hubbard, Hubbard isn't there, so you need Joe Osai, who's been.
That's a good point.
I think Joe Osai has spent as much time in the defensive backfield as you and I have, and we don't play. He's been he and Zach Carter are the two biggest disappointments. But I would absolutely love to be wrong. And again, if I'm wrong and I pull my record, my guess is the 5-5. Happy to be there. So outside of that, it'll be a fun one. It'll be a physical game. I expect both teams to have guys coming in and out of the lineup, getting nicked up, but it'll be entertaining. And we come back and Friday morning, Bengals are at 6-4. Awesome. It wouldn't surprise me, but we shall see. All right, folks, that wraps up. Yeah, exactly. That wraps up our episode for the week. Again, join the family, patreon.com/RiverfrontCincy. We have a fun time with our Slack channel. We've got a bunch of good articles we've got Riverfront U. We've got with our UC coverage, our Xavier coverage, Miami coverage, NKU coverage. We've got articles on our Patreon site. We do hangouts. Once a month we do live hangouts, chats with everybody. It's fun. It's not expensive. Do it now. No, I'm just kidding. Outside of that, Greg, any final thoughts? What's that?
Do it.
Yeah.
Who day, and let's just somehow bring home a win.
Yeah, them losing doesn't end the season, but it puts them in a hell of a hole where they have to almost win out from the rest of the season. Yeah. Again, yeah, I mean, who day? Let's just win, baby. That's all we got for you. Guys, we will see y'all down the road. Take care.